Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Tuesday Tea Time with Sahdi and Omni, where we drink the tea and spill the tea about our weekly spiritual practices. I'm Omni.
And I'm Sahdi.
And today's episode's all about dragons. We're going to go over how they're connected to elements, the cosmos, and energy. And we're also going to go over how to build a connection with them. So make sure you listen all the way to the end. So let's get started with the primordial dragon. At the beginning, literally, almost every culture has some kind of mythos about a primordial dragon or serpent, a being that existed before creation itself. These dragons aren't just big, fire-breathing lizards. They represent the raw, untamed energy of the cosmos. Some traditions even link the forces to Kundalini energy. And that's the spiral power that rises from the base of the spine, unlocking the divine consciousness. And when you think about it, dragon energy is pure divine chaos, the force of both creation and destruction, constantly cycling in and out of existence.
So when I think of primordial dragons, I think of the Nagas because that's what I'm most tapped into. And they're the keepers of hidden wisdom and spiritual transformation. They're mystical beings, and they're not dragons that you would think of like the fire-breathing dragons. They're more serpent-like. They're found in Hindu, Buddhist, and Southeast Asia traditions.
Right.
So like I said, they're not fire-breathing dragons like Western mythology. Nagas are found in sacred waters and hidden realms and astral dimensions. And they hold the keys to esoteric wisdom and spiritual power and cosmic balance. And what they do is they are the protectors of divine wisdom. And they only make themselves known to people who are ready to receive the knowledge. And they often speak in riddles or paradoxes. They don't really teach you things.
Yeah.
You have to uncover the truth and unlock doors.
Yeah.
And decipher the messages and stuff like that when it comes to working with them.
Right. I know some of the readings I did with some of the esoteric interpretations is I read where they speak in sound, vibration, and even light sometimes.
Yep.
My experience when I tapped into one, I had an almost break into my house. And I felt very worried for my safety, and I've never felt that way in my house. So I decided to put together a burn bowl, and I grabbed a bunch of ingredients. And I had a pepper that was frozen from the year before, and I put it in there, and I had put it outside on my porch because once you light that pepper on fire, the air is hot. And I was taking pictures of the smoke because it was just crazy. And in the smoke was a distinct dragon face. Like I remember sending it to you and being like, that's a dragon.
It really did look like a dragon.
Yeah. The energy I got from it was, oh, I'm getting chills. How dare they mess with one of my own?
Right.
It felt like a father protective energy. And I never saw those two men near my house ever again.
Right. And that's how they can come through. They can come through in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
I mean, they can come through visions. They can come through dreams, subconscious messages. So the first time that I encountered a dragon, I was in trance meditation.
Oh, okay.
And I saw this vision, and it looked like this shiny, bright white. And I thought it was a snake at first because I could see the scales. And in my third eye vision, it was up close of these scales that were just gliding upwards. And they were slithering like a snake. And I was thinking, what is this beautiful, bright white?
Like iridescent almost?
Iridescent.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, I was like, what is this? And this huge face of a dragon appeared to me, and it looked right into my eyes. And I was like, holy shit, I was just taken back by what I was seeing. And I was in awe, so I didn't say anything at first. I feel stupid now for what I said. I was like, are you my dragon? I'm like, I could have said a million other things.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel so stupid. I'm like, are you my dragon? And he said telepathically, are you my human?
Oh, wait, like making fun
Like
of you?
making fun of me. And I snapped out of it. I opened my eyes and I was back to reality. But I was imprinted with the feeling that he was 11th dimensional.
Wow. Yeah.
And I felt so powerful because I did feel he was connected to me. And it gave me a feeling of power that if I have an 11th dimensional dragon connected to me, then what do I have to be afraid of?
Exactly.
Even though I didn't say the right words, I realized in that moment that I'm connected to things that I'm not even aware of.
Exactly.
And so that led me down the path to really start seeking out knowledge. And researching and going down the rabbit hole with dragon energy.
Yeah. And there's so much to it too. I know when I've burned candles before, the wax was a distinct dragon face. And I'm like, man, what is it about this? Some of my research says that you can really pay attention to your dreams.
And they're pretty much bridges between worlds. So they're leading us from limitation to liberation.
Yes.
That's their job, from what I understand and what I've dealt with when I've worked with them. And I've noticed that meditating near water is a really powerful way to connect with them too, because the Nagas especially are connected to rivers, lakes, and oceans.
Oh. Whenever you research dragons, you come up with snake, serpent energy. It's all the same thing, I believe. Well, you know the Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail. There's a lot of metaphorical meaning to that, and it's used in a lot of different practices and beliefs across the board. There's a lot of people who believe that that is a dragon eating its own tail, and that dragons represent the beginning of time. Even in voodoo, two of the primordial beings in voodoo, Aida and Damballa, which are the divine male, the divine female of the Loas, and they are seen as serpents or dragons, and one of them's rainbow colored, which I thought was pretty cool. And in many cultures across the board, they talk about dragons.
And they say that dragons were here before creation.
Yes.
They were the first creations.
Yeah, which would make sense why they're ancient magic. Tapping into that is huge. Well, when we talked about learning spells in different languages.
Oh, yeah.
If you learn it in an ancient language, it's tied to more ancient magic and it makes it more powerful. Well, think about if you tapped into a language of a dragon, which is the most ancient magic there is.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because at the end I was going to talk about how to build a shrine for dragons. And I have one in my house, and I only use Latin when I'm dealing with my dragon shrine.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
all of my dragons are named Latin names.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even
so
know.
it's really crazy that you even mentioned that. But I really don't think dragons like to speak English.
Who does, honestly?
Or be verbal at all. Verbal communication like that. I think it's telepathy. I think it's energy and frequency.
Oh, yeah.
So
That makes sense, though.
But there's so many different types of dragons. There's like the elemental dragons, and those dragons govern the forces of nature, and they're the easiest to connect with. There's fire dragons, and I connect with those when I want to ignite passion or transformation. And then there's water dragons, and they hold the secrets of emotions and intuition. And earth dragons are usually for grounding and stability. And then air dragons, they enhance wisdom and communication.
Kind of like they birth the elements.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's fairy dragons.
Ooh.
And fairy dragons are really, really tiny.
Wow.
Yeah, they're small.
What do they do?
No, they're really tiny. They're really connected to the Fae realm. They're also guardians of hidden knowledge, and they appear as glimmers of light in forests.
Oh, like through the trees?
In moments of synchronicity. Have you ever just been gazing out in a moment where everything just feels connected and you see little glimmers in the air?
Yeah, especially if I'm in the woods.
Or at an ocean or a river or a body of water, or you're looking out into the clouds and you feel at peace.
Yeah. Or when I'm in the water at the ocean, when the light's hitting the ocean and it looks like it's glittering.
Yeah. They say those are
them showing up.
Then there's the astral dragons, and they're one of the most powerful, I believe. These dragons travel through dreams and astral projection and waking visions. They usually appear to people who are going through deep spiritual transformations, and they bring messages from higher realm.
Ooh.
So they bring messages down through meditation and things like that.
It's funny because growing up, I drew dragons all the time. And then I remember cutting up a bunch of CDs and making a 3D sculpture of a dragon.
Ooh.
My art teacher's like, a dragon again? Really? I was just thinking about, I was like, how would my dragon look?
What kind of dragons are you drawn to?
I don't know why I always see a dragon as purple when I think about one next to me.
I mean, is it big or little or?
Yeah, I would say big. Man, that movie Dragonheart when I was younger. I was like,
Oh, okay.
that's what I see in my head.
Right.
Meaty. Big and meaty.
Right.
But smart.
I feel like if I had a dragon, if I could imagine a dragon or manifest one into this reality, it would probably be more serpent-like, probably like a huge snake, maybe 6 to 8 feet long.
I can see that. You have snakes.
But very dragon.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with big wings, like an opal. Where
Yes,
it sparkles
that's-
different colors. Blues and purples and
Yes.
pinks. To everybody who's listening, close your eyes and imagine what your dragon would look like.
Yeah.
Because whatever you think that it would look like, that's probably what is trying to connect with you.
And then research.
Yeah, because everybody has a dragon entity that is attached to them.
Yeah. Take everything that we're saying and check mark what resonates with you and then look up what dragon is connected to that.
Do your research.
Yeah, you have to find them. They're not going to come find you. They're up in the 11th dimension living their lives.
Right. Or in the fairy realm,
Yeah.
or in the astral.
Yeah.
And then there's the wish dragons.
Ooh.
I've never worked with these before, but I did some research on them. They're connected to jinns,
Oh.
like genies. They're capable of bending reality. I feel like these ancient dragons could be dangerous if used in the wrong way. You know how you hear about genies and you ask them for a wish and you have to be really careful. You have to ask that wish wisely.
Yeah, it's very trickster spirit. Whenever I hear the word jinn, I think, ooh, careful. I always think warning.
And it's so ancient. And even if you really look back on the mythology that jinns have, it dates back.
Yeah.
There are some people that are connected to jinns that are part of the 1%, and you'll never know who the fuck they are. They're so rich and so elite that they're definitely connected to that energy.
Right.
It's a little scary for me. I'm like, okay, you just stay over there and live your best life.
Yeah.
I'm going to
You're
stay over
good.
here.
Dragons aren't just wise and majestic. They also represent raw and tame power. And like all that power, if you don't know how to handle it, it can consume you. So this is where dragon energy intersects with shadow work. When you tap into this force, you're not just awakening strength, you're facing your deepest self, your fears, your ego, or your desires for control. So the question is, can you handle that? Because dragon energy doesn't just give power, it tests you. If you're really wanting a major awakening and you really want to work through something big, you could tap into that and utilize it to have some major breakthroughs.
And then you can also use them for oath work. So if you're trying to make and keep promises to yourself,
Oh,
you
okay.
can use dragons for that. You can use it for shadow work, like you were talking about. You can use it for manifesting, but with caution.
Yeah.
Because again, you're working with dragon energy.
And they don't care about the third dimension so much.
Yeah, you got to understand that wish granting energies always comes with a test and it comes with a price.
Yeah.
So it's not normal manifesting energy that you're working with when you're working with dragon energy. So before you start working with dragons, do your research. Yeah, this is tea time. We're just going over the basics of it, but always do your research. And because it is chaos magic.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're talking about is you're navigating chaos with humor. So they also have a really good sense of humor. So they might put you through some shit that you're freaking out about and they're kind of laughing because they're like, oh, you're going to learn the hard way. And this is very funny to me.
Well, think about it from their perspective. They're in the 11th dimension. They see everything.
Laughter can be the best weapon against fear as well. You know, so teaching you to laugh at yourself. Really, was that a big deal? Was that bad? You're over there kicking, screaming, crying, and I'm over here laughing. It's fucking funny. Look, it's funny. And they get you to laugh at yourself and laugh at things that you're taking too seriously.
I've definitely mastered that.
So
I laugh at myself all the time.
I mean, it's interesting working with the energy of dragons.
I wouldn't recommend manifesting something physical for the third dimension for Earth by using dragon energy.
Yeah, me either. I agree with you on that.
They're more into the psychic, the mental, the spiritual. So if you're trying to manifest maybe being more psychic or having a breakthrough spiritually, I would invest in that. I would not recommend, well, I want to get this new job, I'm going to use a dragon, because they don't see the third dimension as being serious, like you were saying. There's so much more out there. This is just a pinprick.
So working with them is kind of like working with metaphors. They're not even going to work with you unless you're ready to put in the extra work. They're not just going to give you the answers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're doing dream interpretations. Your subconscious mind speaks through metaphors and you have to interpret it. And it's a little bit of work to interpret dreams.
They're like philosophers. Pretty
They
much.
are. They'll tell you something, and it's kind of like working with Yoda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
You have
like,
to think about it.
and they're not even going to waste their time with you unless you're really ready to work with them. They're like, oh, I'm not going to give you the secrets to the universe if you're
That's
not
no
ready to
fun.
put in the work.
Yeah, and I think anything on a higher consciousness is spoken into in metaphors because everybody's on different paths, different journeys. And if you're all going to read a verse out of the Bible, you can all interpret it differently, or the Quran, or anything.
Yes.
You take different messages from it because that's when you need to know that message on your path.
And even if you look over some of the Naga riddles, if you research it, like one of them is a full cup holds nothing new, and do not chase the sun, become the light.
Yes. Hold on. I want that tattooed.
And that encourages your inner illumination instead of seeking things externally. To master the world, one must let go of self. It's a lesson in detachment. That's the way that dragons speak to you. And they can give you an entire lesson in one sentence. Meditate on that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If they come to you and they give you something like that, then that's something that you really need to work on and not just take lightly. Because if you take something that they give you lightly, then they're not going to come back and give you anything else. It's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But you just heard that. And it resonated with you. It brought tears to your eyes.
Yeah.
You wrote it down. You said you want to get that tattooed on your
I
body.
do. I feel that in my bones.
The dragon will come back and it will work with you again.
Well, yeah, think about it. If somebody comes to you for advice again and again and again, and then they don't take
Right.
it again and again and again, you're like, stop wasting my time. I'm not going to keep giving you advice just for you to just
Yeah,
not
and
take
usually
it.
people who are drawn to the energy of dragons, they're already somebody who is either about to go through a spiritual awakening or Kundalini activation, because Kundalini activation is heavily involved with dragon energy.
Right. I mean, we did talk briefly in the beginning of this that it's like the serpent like energy that starts at the base of your spine and works its way
Right.
up, which you've experienced it before, right?
Yes. I just did a Kundalini exercise this morning and I'll be doing it for the next 30 days. And I do breath of fire exercises.
We talked about that in our Lionsgate meditation episode.
Right. Kundalini energy is, if you can imagine, an energetic serpent that lays dormant at the base of your spine. And when it's activated, it awakens and it travels up your spine and out of the top of your head. And it causes a Kundalini awakening. If you're listening, you don't know what it is, research it.
Yeah.
A lot of information out there about it. And we should do a tea time all about Kundalini energy. It can happen all at once. It can happen in increments. There's so many facets to it. I mean, if it happens too fast, there's people that can even go into psychosis.
Physical, too.
Yeah, people that are already listening have gotten this far into it. They're probably already connected to the dragon energy through dreams or seeking that knowledge. And people that like uncovering truth about introspection and or has strong past life connection to different traditions and stuff like that. But you really have to enjoy working with like symbolism, riddles, and esoteric knowledge to really get the full benefit from the dragon energy.
Well, I mean, even in some esoteric traditions, they believe that the earth itself carries dragon energy flowing through invisible pathways called ley lines. In Chinese geomancy, they call these dragon banes, and they're thought to be channels of life force or qi moving through the land. Mountains, rivers, ancient temples, many of these sacred sites are said to sit on these power points and dragons. They're the guardians of this energy. It's a wild concept, but if you've ever felt something powerful standing on a mountaintop or in the dense forest, and mountaintops and beaches scientifically have been proven to be the highest vibrational places on the planet. Maybe that's because that's where dragon energy is.
Yeah. Dragons sometimes are connected with gods. There are a lot of gods that are shown depicted with gods, and there are some dragons that just are gods.
Oh, wow.
And like you were talking about earlier, how some dragons are known to be creator gods
oh, yeah.
of entire universes.
Like one dragon's eyeball could be bigger than the planet.
Oh, yeah. Like there's some dragons out there that Earth is pretty much the same size as their eye. They're infinite beings.
Yeah.
So creating an altar or a shrine is a really good way to build a relationship with dragons. I would say for my altar, this is what I've learned. It doesn't really matter the size of the dragon that you choose. I do have some plastic dragons on my shrine, I'll admit, but I think you should have at least one or two that are made out of a natural material, even if it's very small, like a crystal or wood or something like that. Dragons love crystals, anything shiny. So they're drawn to high energy stones like jade or obsidian, clear quartz, and amethyst. They like shiny things like gold, silver. You can put old jewelry that breaks, put that up there, give that to them. One thing is, once you give something to your dragon shrine, you don't take it back. That's theirs forever.
Yeah.
You don't take it back, or they kind of get upset about that. I like to put dragon fruit sometimes as an offering. For some reason, it just resonates with their energy. Swords or daggers.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, they really respect people that have swords. If you don't have a sword, get some kind of dagger or a really pretty knife to put on there. It has some kind of symbolic power. It's like honor, protection, and they really resonate with that. I like to have a candle, and I use it as a way to communicate and honor them. And when I speak to the dragons, I always make direct eye contact with them. So I'll pick a dragon that I'm working with, and I have a figurine or a statue. I name them. Like I was saying earlier, I use Latin. I feel like naming them in an ancient language strengthens the bond that I have with them.
Yeah.
I have a water dragon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I have a water dragon. And if I'm trying to work through emotional energy, I look at it in its eyes. I use a certain spell that it's written out in Latin, and I look it directly in its eyes, and I say the spell to it.
Oh.
And it helps me.
Like maybe with a little cup of water next to it or something.
And I light a candle,
Yeah.
and I make it a whole ritualistic thing. I also have my shrine in my living room because it protects my front door.
Oh, yeah.
So
protection.
Yeah, because I'm always giving offerings, and I say hello, and I call all of them by name. And so I have a strong bond with each one of them.
Yeah.
And I feel like they protect my house. They protect my finances and things like that.
So if you're lighting a candle for the altar, which color do you think you should go with?
It all depends.
Depends on what you're working through?
Yeah, it depends on what I'm working through. I feel like with the dragons, it doesn't really matter. Flame is a flame.
Because they work with all vibrations. Okay.
Yeah. But I feel like trust your intuition when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So if you're really pulled to use a blue candle and you're working with the water element, with something that you're trying to express or throat chakra energy, then do that. And so whenever you're working with any deity, any element, trust your intuition with that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the tea we have to spill for today. And thank you all for listening. And remember to keep your minds open.
Namaste, bitches.